Halls of Torment. Here we go. We're going to be doing a Shieldmaiden run today. So this game had a pretty drastic balance update. And different things are now a lot more fair and fun. And of course, some things got nerfed. The Shieldmaiden. I did not succeed in my previous run of the Shieldmaiden. I don't remember why. But gains block strength per level, area per level, and crit base crit bonus on the Warhammer. And I believe the Shield Bash is now actively used. So, has high crit damage on the Warhammer, but very tame crit chance. And then the Shield Bash mechanic hasn't changed as much as I think it has. But generally, it just does damage based on your block strength. So I think the big thing that has changed here is that block strength on the Shieldmaiden, I'm pretty sure was flat damage before, or flat block strength as she leveled up. And now it's a percentage of block strength as she levels up. So let's get into this. Naturally, I have everything maxed out as before. And there are no items yet for me to purchase. I think I'm just missing one or two items that I didn't have the achievement yet for, and they're related to like frost damage with stuff, so I'm less interested. So here we have the Echoing Band. Any form of physical damage will then shockwave, 20% chance to shockwave, dealing damage in an area. I find this pretty good on any kind of physical, especially melee build that just struggles to maybe finish things off. It's just a good ring too. And then 10 base damage. I figure that this might be helpful for the Shield Bash. It can also be helpful for some of the excuse me, some of the abilities that you learn have some pretty low base damage sometimes, and so I will be looking at kind of how to build this character in the moment, in the heat of the moment. We got some block strength, we've got some block strength, we've got some block strength. You better believe it. And then I'm going to be trying out the new Mark of the Sword. This is one of the things that was changed pretty drastically. The Swordsman now has base damage and base defense as their mark, which I think this is actually pretty strong. I appreciate it a lot. I could be running like Mark of the Arrow for extra crit chance, which would put me at 20%. Or I could run Mark of the Shield, which would give a block strength multiplier to all of my damage. I presume all of my attack damage, but if that works on abilities, that's actually probably pretty good. And then I have Bloodcatcher, just so when I'm not blocking, I'm actually healing a little bit. Just a way to kind of offset some health, and if I am at full health, I get extra damage permanently. And then Thorn Fists. If something does hit me, and I will probably be using this to kill the final boss if I'm strong enough. I've done this before in the past. I want to see if it still works. Deals a 3 times overcrit to each enemy that hurts you. This is instant. This is a lot of damage. So, an overcrit for definition purposes is a critical that deals more than its typical damage. So if you have a 100% chance to crit, you deal your critical damage. This character deals 400% crit bonus. But a 3 times overcrit would be a 3 times crit value. So instead of 400%, we've got to look at, let's see here. Let's go hover this. So it says a crit bonus of 400%, but it's really like plus 300% because you're already doing 100% of your normal damage. So an overcrit will multiply the plus 300%, unless that really is a 400% bonus, which would put us at 500% damage. on the crit. So I don't know how that's more of a communication issue with my brain and the UI. I don't know which one that is. But that's how that's going to work. So it's either going to do something like 1200 damage or, 900 percent damage, 1200% damage or 900% damage or something like that. And then since I'm going to be using this in a lot of blocking, it will allow me to heal up with the Blood Catcher. And we'll have some base defense here as well from the Mark of the Sword. So we'll have plus 20 base damage to anything we really use here. So damage per block strength, the Shield Bash, if I have 10 block, I do 20 damage. And she has a base of 20 block strength on the left there. I can't point at it. So she has a base damage on her Shield Bash of 40 damage. We are going to be doing an extra 20 damage on top of that. Now, that's not so much for the Warhammer, especially early on, going from 200 to 220, but the Shield Bash going from 40 to 60 at level 1 hopefully is quite valuable. So I'm going to smash this into Agony mode, and we'll go ahead and do Chambers of Dissonance just because it is the hardest area. I would like to see some of the other areas maybe scale a little better. I don't know. I feel like Agony is a good scaler, but it really does matter what level you're on. If you're doing Agony 5 on Haunted Caverns, it does not feel the same as if you're doing Agony 5 on Frozen Depths. And I think that's intended, but I know that they're planning on doing some different progression design here, where you have to beat each room in order before you kind of unlock the Agony and they're going to call it like the Shrine of Torment and some other stuff going on. So they're working on their final release patch, their 1.0. And I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I just don't know how it's going to play out at this time. So Chambers of Dissonance is in many ways a both fun and frustrating area to play in. A lot of enemies, when they die, they either send off a projectile, or in this case, if they don't die, they fling backwards. Let's see, how do I want to play this? Go with range and area probably really early on, and then let's go Morning Star. I don't know. Let's go real defensive early on for no reason. If it was block strength, I would be super happy about that. Maybe I'll roll the next one. Hey, got it anyway. Get some movement speed in here. Because enemies, when they die... Oops, didn't mean to touch that. Because enemies, when they do die, tend to just kind of do different things. See, crits and attack speed. So base defense and block strength. Crit and range. So I'm going to re-roll that and see if we can get some block strength in here. My goal for this run is to do basically just a full block strength run. So I'm just going to be taking as much as I can and seeing where I can get with it. Looks like we're going to get quite a bit of defense as well. So just to point this out, we're already going from 10 to 51 defense here between everything. Got 54% damage reduction. We've got block strength of chance to block anything 24 damage or less is 100% block. I'm not actually sure that they can hurt me right now. Let's do some area. So you saw that 61,000, I think it was like 6140 or 6160 that popped up there. If I walk into an enemy here, you can see it again. Come on. I can't even walk into the enemy, he dies too quick. There we go, 6201. That is the Thorn Fists doing their work. And then the Shield Bash actually can knock back elites, which normally can't be knocked back, I guess. I've never really paid attention to that before. I haven't really worried about knockback in this game too much. So, yeah, the last time I played the this class, Shieldmaiden, I did not finish that run. It's still up on YouTube. So, you can see it, but one of the things I want to mention is that I'm not doing a lot of Halls of Torment anymore. I am covering some news with it, and I wanted to play some stuff with regards to this new patch. Let's do Transfixion. We'll make things weak. I love Transfixion. I think it's a great ability. It actually does quite a bit of damage, but its benefit is this this effect on hit chance, where it causes fragile, which causes enemies to take more damage. So for every mark of fragile, they take 5% more damage, up to I think 25%, which due to multiplicative natures is probably stronger than actually getting damage on a lot of situations. So combining that with some attack speed and some different things like that can be pretty powerful. Or multi-shot. Anyways, so I want to do a couple more runs here and there with Halls of Torment with the patch changes. Just try them out and show them off. That's pretty much it. Just trying to cover my bases with my content here. But also, I just did a whole bunch of Diablo 2, and I wanted to play something else. So a lot of the time, if I'm recording, that is the game I am playing for that day. That is my time for that day. So I often do a lot of multi-recordings where I'll play, 3 hours of something. But then not play for a while. So I just kind of got bored of Diablo 2 for just a second. I also just don't have the next setup ready for it. And let's just walk into this guy. There we go. He's just probably going to die instantly there. Spectral Fists. I'm not really interested in Spectral Fists. Not really interested in that either. Those magical. Those are physical. Sure, I'll take Phantom Needles. Block strength. Okay, where are we at? 131. Okay, what's our damage at? So our Warhammer's doing 530, and our shield bash is doing 579. So it's doing quite a bit of damage. I'm curious if I take this off. Put it back on. So I'm gonna argue that this is non-intuitive, that Shield Bash is not effective at all by the Iron Ring or the Mark of the Sword. I am fully disappointed in this. Because this, like, should affect... Yeah, so it affects things like Morning Star, and it affects Transfixion, and it affects Phantom Needles, but it doesn't affect the Shield Bash. Yeah, that's non-intuitive. Maybe I'll make a report on that even. That feels kind of sad, actually. But yeah, you can see how, like, let's see here, 70 base damage plus 20. It's pretty decent. It's a little more than 20%. Damage here, Phantom Needles going from 40 to 60. That's 50% damage boost. This ability is all over the place. 120, so a little less than 20%. For an extra 20 damage there. But when you're already hitting multiplier values of like 2.21, it's pretty worth it. Because you're just getting diminishing returns after a while. So it's like, oh, hey, I got 20% damage, but I'm getting 20% damage on what's already there. You know, see, like 10% damage, but you're already at, 221 multiplier. So you're only going to, 231 multiplier. So that base damage, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's kind of deceptively strong, and I really like it. Maybe not because it's deceptive, but, because it's good. It scales well throughout, like, the game, because it's good in the early game when you have no bonuses. It's good in the late game when your bonuses are just no longer of super crazy good value. I am going to re-roll this, and we are going to grab this one. So that's another 10 damage on the bash. It's like one trait right there just gave me 10 damage on the bash. Well, 10 base damage on the bash. So I get it. There's a certain... Look at this. We're already at 822 here. There's a certain limitation here. It just feels bad to not get that damage bonus as well. Block strength and movement speed. We'll wait for it. I want all the block strength. I don't think I'm missing a block strength item either. Do crit chance here. So they changed everything crit chance related from base crit chance to multiplier crit chance, and then buffed everyone's crit chance. So this character has 10% crit chance on the Warhammer. Base defense, block strength, attack speed. We will take this. So you can't pump up your crit chance in the same way that you used to be able to do so. Kind of sad by this. I understand why they did it. I'm still sad by it. So my crit chance here, you can see I got 10%. I'm going from 10% to 11%. Crit bonus, because this character has level up bonuses, we're getting a base crit damage ratio there. So Warhammer hits hard. It just, you can't really do much. So there's typically 5 levels of any given trait. So you're going to get, 50% because 10% or whatever. And so we're going to go from 10% crit chance to 15% when we get all of those traits done. Unless we're wearing something like the rings or the amulet, the mark of the whatchamacallit. So this base damage talent here, sorry, I'm interrupting myself. This is less valuable while I'm wearing the iron ring. But it's still pretty strong. But Morning Stars get a force scaling to them. The Morning Star ability gets a force scaling. So I'm not sure which of these is actually stronger. And it's one of those things where I'm actually not a fan of this design, because you're talking about damage versus damage in a way that is very difficult to either calculate or understand on the fly, especially. Like, I couldn't tell you if base damage or base force is better here. And base attack speed, kind of the same situation. It's just less damage focused and more DPS focused, but still. Oh, there we go. Now that comes into play a little bit with the ability to take multiple. One of the potions allows you to take multiple things, so like angle, size, base range. So this is the level 3, allowing us a couple extra here. So damage, force, attack speed, and multi-strike. These are all very good, and it's 4 different stats. This allows angle size, which means it's going to hit kind of wider, but in a way mildly slower, maybe, unless they actually speed up the animation for the wider angle. So I'm actually going to... Nah. Let's see here. I don't like any of these. Let's just take that. But yeah, it's hard to understand if something is actually valuable. I'm going to take this one, because there's so many multipliers going on. There's so many different damage numbers going on. When you start doing some of that, the ease of use comes into play, in my opinion, and the communication level also comes into play. So this is the only block strength one. What is our defense? We're up to 74% damage reduction, and we block anything 42 damage or less. And I've mentioned that before. I don't even know if it might have even been the same thing, same ability, but just the idea that any block strength that you can't really know. You just can't really know unless you're calculating it in the moment. And then because things are multiplicative, it might be more beneficial to take like 1 attack speed talent and 1 multi-strike talent and 1 base defense or base attack talent in a given situation, because of how different abilities scale. So like Morningstar Force multiplies damage. So if we look at the multiplier here, oh, sorry, wrong page. Morningstar traits, we got, 2.46. Anyways, we go down to like damage multiplier force. We've got quite a bit of multiplier there, but I have no idea how that works. So we've got like damage up here 73, and then damage down here 373. And so like there's, I don't know how any of that math works. There's some crazy math going on there, and they're giving me a lot of numbers, and it's not really adding up quite well to me. I'm going to try to finish off this light beam thing. Presumably, it's not this direction, apparently. chains deal damage and have a chance to apply slow. Each hit with Morningstar has a chance to emit and unleash Morningstar that bounces and deals damage. Oh, those both kind of sound fun. I don't think I've done Unleash Stars before. I think I've done Spike Chain in the past. Probably unlocked the ability and then never played this build again. So when I am not recording, I was about to call this a stream, but I don't stream. When I'm not recording, I am typically at work or with my family, but I am also working on the finality of the next Salt and Sanctuary patch. So that is kind of a side project I do on my weekends, so to say, or in other free time. And it has come a long way. And I'll be doing a video on that if I can. Take some time to do that. Last year in April, I was able to release a balance update to the game. I originally created the modding framework Desalinated, and many of you may know me from that. Then afterwards, I reached out to, well, actually during, I reached out to the original creator, which is James, and James really likes the idea of users modding and sharing and being part of the community. So I became part of the community quite quickly with that, helping people install the mod, making the mod easier to install because it was a little bit messier at the beginning. And I offered my assistance to James as I knew he was working on something at the time. And it was Salt 2, Salt and Sacrifice, which is deceptively not really a sequel. It is actually a prequel. Spoilers, I suppose, but not really. And I helped alpha test that. And then started working on Salt and Sanctuary as a contractor. So I was able to create this balance patch among something like 50 bug fixes. Bug fixes are James territory. I just go through the list and say, hey, should I fix this? But, hey, we got more block strength. Always more block strength. Where we at? Where we at? It's pretty good. Okay. Moving on. So Enhanced eventually got released. I had to focus on bugs first. Then Enhanced got released. Worked on it off and on from August to April of 22, 23. And I've been trying to go over that a little bit in my spare time, just kind of reviewing what I did, how I did it, does it work, how players feel for some of the things. And for the most part, people are very positive about the enhanced mode, enhanced combat mode, which is what I created. And one of the things that James and I agreed on was not to lock away the original. So you can do classic mode if you so wish, because that was the game's existence for so long. It feels bad to lock that away. That's something I kind of feel strongly about in other circumstances, being able to backtrack patches and stuff, which has led me to also allow you to down patch on Steam, because I have seen other people do that, other developers do that. So I wanted to be able to allow players to backtrack those patches within reason. I don't want to backtrack a super buggy patch. Okay, none of those are speaking to me. I don't want any of them. So, we'll be getting a small update to the enhanced mode, hopefully in the next week. It's basically done. I'm just kind of working through some bugs. And outside of the recording session here, I am actually relatively busy. So, is what it is. War Chief's Visor? I've never seen this. This must be a new item. Okay, the bucket is to the right of the laser. We've got the next laser activated. It's probably pointing in the wrong direction. Yep. Come here. Step on me. I'm blocking most of his hits, but when I don't block, I am doing numbers so quickly they don't even read correctly. There we go. Interesting. Sure. Seems more apt for the build. So I've just been going through and just kind of making sure that like some of the numbers made sense to me after the fact. Didn't want the game to be too easy or too hard. My goal was to make it about the same, but you know, more fair, things like that. You just have to run into those and they twist. Those lasers. Let's see. Does this go to what I need it to go to? I have a feeling no. But yeah, I'm excited to release that patch. We've been working on, well, I've been working on a mono game update. So we're moving from the old X and A, which mono game and X and A aren't really that different other than some behind the scenes stuff. But should make it a little bit more viable for some different porting issues and some other maintenance stuff, which will be nice. XNA was deprecated by Microsoft in 2014. If you've never heard that term, deprecated means basically abandoned or unreleased, if you will, sort of. XNA was and is still open source. You can just go and download it, use it, edit it, whatever. So Monogame, as well as another group or framework called FNA, are both different forms of reimplementation of XNA, where Monogame is kind of the evolution, and FNA is kind of the maintenance of most of its features. We use both currently. So Salt 2 is actually all Monogame, and was able to be ported relatively easily to console, most consoles. And then Salt and Sanctuary was XNA, because it was released forever ago. 8 years, I think. 2016. No. Yes. Yes, 2016. Just gonna walk into this mob, everything dies. I'm at the point where I just don't take a whole lot of damage, and when I do, everything dies. Hey! Butterfly pattern. The fire's hurting me. That's not helpful. What did we find? Boots. Boots block strength. So just to touch on some of the subjects I want to talk about in the future, just because I don't have a whole lot to say about this game. I really like this game. It's been really enjoyable. I have over 100 hours in it. Needless to say, I've really enjoyed this $5 game that regularly goes on sale for $4. Like, if you can't afford a $4 or $5 game and you live in a functioning economy of the modern world, or the, so to say, Western world, then, you know, go play a different game. But still, like, I don't know what to tell you. I think this game is easily worth 15. So there you go. That's my current review. I'll do an actual official review when this game comes out. But as for Salt and Sanctuary, since it's on my mind, it's what I'm doing otherwise in my free time right now. That and way too much Hades 2 at night. And when I can. And so some of the things that I've been doing for Salt 2 in the enhanced mode originally is I made a lot of pretty major design decisions that are reminiscent of Desalinated's test build. And so, like, one of the things is elemental damage in Dark Souls is mimicked in Salt and Sanctuary. And one of the sort of issues with this is that it skews hard. And because Salt and Sanctuary was made by, like, James plus a couple friends as contractors and playtesters and whatnot, it's hard to get numbers perfect. And James does an amazing job. He wears multiple hats. I'm going to go ring blades. He wears multiple hats, and he does an amazing job. And Salt and Sanctuary sold 1 million copies before I ever touched it. So, you know, I'm nobody in that regards. But I do know people have also really enjoyed the enhanced mode. So I would say it's probably an 80-20 split or a 90-10 split of people being either really happy or relatively distraught. So some of the things that I've done for the enhanced mode in Salt and Sanctuary is skill points no longer scale at, well, class skills. So in Salt and Sanctuary, you have just giant skill tree. It's intimidating at first. It's just stats. It's just stats. It's really not that crazy. So you get strength, endurance, things like that, just like Dark Souls. You have your damaging stats, you have your utility stats. There is no vitality stat in Salt 1. So you have these class nodes that act as unlocks. So if you want to use two-handed swords, you need to have a certain level of the unlock to have it. So class 2 swords require a level 1 swordsman. If they are a level 1, or excuse me, two-handed swords require class 1 swords as long as they themselves are class 1. You can then increase block strength by, but this is probably better. Let's just, oh, that's defense, not block. I misread that. Well, we can just remove these. I should have re-rolled that then. Yeah, equilibrium. There we go. That's what I want. Glad they added that. I lost track of where I am with the laser. I believe it goes this way. So skill points in that game Normally, you just invest 1 point at a time, and then you follow that up, and you can invest more or traverse the tree, up to 5 points. The class skills, however, are a set amount of points, and you always get stats with them. So it's nothing, you're not getting robbed of skill points in any way. Other than there's some min-max complaints, of course, where daggers or shields might give willpower, which gives stamina, instead of like strength or dexterity or something else, which I personally think is just over excessive min-maxing, but that's just me. We will point this way. But so each of the skills now costs less, which also means you invest less. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 added up to, what is that, 16 or something? Off the top of my head, what is that? 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. 7. 13? Man, I can't math. 15. It is 15, not 16. It's too early in the morning. So instead of that, the pattern is, well, in Desalinated, the pattern was different. I actually made it so that there were only 3 tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3 of anything specific. So while I really liked Desalinated, I wanted consistency across the games. I didn't want a weirdness. Sure. We'll just do whatever that is. I didn't want to create a new system when Salt 2 had already released. So I've had a couple users, just a handful, accuse me of trying to make Salt 1 into Salt 2. I had already done this change. I just implemented it differently in Desalinated. In Desalinated, the actual mod, so to say, had only 3 tiers. And so you'd have Swordsman 1, 2, and 3 instead of Swordsman 1 through 5. This system, 1, 2, and 3, then only costs, those skill levels. But I also made it cost more. I don't like any of those abilities. Okay, go away. We'll get the experience. So instead of doing 1, 2, and 3, at which I actually had them cost 1, 3, and 5 in my version, my modded version, I just mimicked Salt. So 1, 3, and 5, 9 points, right? I mimicked Salt 2 instead. And in that, Salt 2 goes 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. And 1, 1, 2, 2, 3 is, what, 7 points? No, that's not right. 9 points, just the same as what I had. So there you go. So same amount of points as my Desalinated mod. And I was in communication with James a lot during building Desalinated and made a lot of various comments to him from the community about the overinvestment of skills. And so that it's completely unknown. I've talked to him about it. We have no idea. But it's completely unknown if somehow some of those comments and discussions might have actually led to changes in Salt 2's structure a little bit. Just the base cost structure. We're not talking anything too crazy here. That would be neat if I ever found out if that was perfectly true. Sure, we'll do that one instead. So I am at the point where I can probably just stand still and do literally nothing with this character. I'm on Agony 4, and I can just basically stand still. We'll do effect on hit chance. But it's been an interesting thing to work on, and so I did appreciate being allowed to work on it. I do think those changes are really good. Being able to spend, say, 9 skill points instead of 15 on a given situation. And this means that if you don't want the willpower that the daggers give you, you're only getting 9 instead of 15. And you can invest the other 6 somewhere else. It also means that you can traverse the skill tree just ever so slightly faster, which again, I think allows the player to do more. I think these are good things. One of the reasons I did this change, and I'll talk about many of these things in my actual Salt video, but one of the reasons I did this change as well was the... what's the right word? Frustration and rough edges of the gameplay in certain circumstances. Dark Souls doesn't have this. You level up in Dark Souls and you get a stat point. The end. Nothing crazy here. And it's just it's just a stat screen. There's no skill tree, there's no special whatever. It's pretty simple. You just level it up. So let's walk over here and actually get this. There we go. In Salt Sanctuary, however, you have to traverse the tree, and you have to kind of unlock a few nodes here and there. You don't have to unlock a lot because each stat node is up to 5 points of investment. But when you get to the class nodes, you have this situation where you can get to, like, say, class 3 or class 4 or class 5, especially those last 3 classes. You've leveled up, you're sitting on 1 or 2 pearls. Gray pearls, or excuse me, black pearls in that are kind of your skill points, and you can get them outside of actually leveling up. And it feels really bad, in my opinion, to have a situation where the player has gained power but can't use it. I feel like this is a really weird circumstance. It's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of, say, level requirements in like a Diablo game. You found an item and you can't equip it, and it has nothing to do with any of your choices. Leveling up is a choice, but it's also not really a choice. Come on. It's grind. It's grind. And so it's less fun that way. It's a feel bad moment, and I really like the idea of staying still and killing things. That was really fun. Nah, don't care. So by reducing these costs to be like Salt 2, it actually solves a problem that even my desalinated mod, and in my opinion, did not solve, which was the tier 3 in my desalinated mod still cost the same as the tier 5 in the original game. It was just literally just a renamed skill in the mod. And so this changes the structure here quite usefully, in my opinion, because it allows the player to not need a lot of skill points to continue progressing. And while they're progressing in their gear choices, they're not getting free extra stats per se. So in both games, if you invest 5 skill points into anything, you're going to get 5 of that stat. Whether it be classic, enhanced, or Salt 2. So it's a long-winded way to say a bunch of things, but I think that those kind of decisions are extremely meaningful from the designer's perspective, and that's really what this channel is kind of about. Is me trying to share my observations and feelings about design and mechanics in games. So, yeah. Furthermore, there's some other stuff. I wanted a lot of things to be more fair, more balanced. So things like blood magic, they do a little less poise. Some of those were absolutely insane. I don't even know if they were tested that deeply in the original classic mode, because you had stuff like Dark Arrows. Dark Arrows did something like 30 or 40 stagger per hit, but sent out something like 15 arrows across its lifetime. It was a little orb, kind of like Frozen Orb in Diablo 2, which would just, if the orb would move forward, and as the orb moved forward, it would shoot out like seeking missiles, and those seeking missiles did just absolutely massive stagger damage. Well, just like Diablo 2, you could shotgun this thing through bosses, both because of large hitboxes, both games, and because of just being able to kind of put it inside of an enemy as a visual hitbox, which allowed you to basically permanently stagger any boss whatsoever. I'm pretty sure it could permanently stagger every boss in the game. So that was probably not well tested originally. Because this thing was doing upwards of 200 stagger a second. So I believe I cut that like in half or worse. This game is playing itself now. I'm just literally clicking the talents. Like, this is silly. I love it. Block strength is 318. I block anything 80 damage or less. My damage reduction is 86%. There you go. I don't think you can do that on any other class quite like this. Maybe the warrior, maybe the sorceress for some block strength, but you're not going to get all of those stats as easily probably. Warrior maybe, but anyway. Some other changes in Salt 1, and I'm kind of covering more of the controversial changes here. Carpus Layer, okay. One of the other changes I did was I took off all the secondary requirements on abilities or on weapons. So in the original Salt 1, excuse me, some weapons, not all of them, some weapons required things like Cleric to use a holy weapon. Now, this makes perfect sense, and there's nothing wrong with the original design. And this has been a relatively 50-50 split opinion as far as I've been encountered with it. Most people just don't care. The people that do care are very strong about it. So, basically speaking, let's go pick that up. Let's see here. What's my block strength? 302. Versus, I actually need to wear that until it spawns something. Where's my clouds? There we go. 303. Okay, so about 303. I can stand in multiple clouds. 320. I'll just leave the original on. I removed all the secondary requirements for weapons. This only ever existed for weapons, melee weapons specifically, which is the bulk of most weapons, and it only existed for non-poison weapons. Now, if you got into whips, there was massive inconsistency because the whip swords were considered melee in this context and therefore required a secondary ability, a secondary class, like Magic User 1 or Magic User 2, the Phoenix Tail. You got into cleric weapons, which would require cleric stuff. But the thing was, you didn't just require the cleric class or the magic class or whatever. The skill tree is laid out that magic user 1 and then subsequent magic user 1 through 5. Typically, you didn't need anything higher than 2. Magic user 1 is something like 9 points away from the core grid. Maybe it's 7, but it's something like that. It's like 7 to 9 points away from the core grid, which means that you'd come across a weapon, and not only can you not use it, same thing with skill points, you can't use it for many, 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 many levels. And if you've never seen a 2 requirement weapon before, and like I said, there are some weapons that weren't this way. So that could be confusing because you're not even looking for it because maybe you've neither A, never seen it, or B, you've seen the elemental weapons not need them before. Pistols, crossbows, whips, didn't need them. There was, I think, like one random spear or something that was like lightning that didn't need it. It was just like, I don't really know the pattern or logic to it completely, but mostly it was kind of the utility weapons that didn't have it. So I just made it across the board. Nothing requires a secondary stat. Let's do base damage. Let's get over. No, don't touch me. You're going to kill yourself instantly here. Let's go over here. Okay, here we go. Let's watch his health tick down. Oh, don't move. Don't move. Look at that damage. Look at that damage. And I take none, basically. The end. There it is. Let's see here. Block strength 322 at the end there. Defense of 144. My Warhammer does 1200, has a crit chance of 15 and a crit bonus of 921. My Shield Bash, total damage 2318. That's not bad. Generally 2 times the damage of the Warhammer, but can't crit. Echoing Band, this thing. Let's see here. Echoing Band did 37 million damage. Morningstar did 113 million. And then Warhammer did 15 million, 16 million on Shield, 10 million on Transfixion, and 18 million on Phantom Needles for no reason whatsoever, really. Yeah. Ring Blades did 5 million. So pretty good stuff. Pretty good run there. Yes, I do. Oh, no, I don't. I didn't turn in that helmet. Oops. Oops. Didn't turn in the helmet. I'll get it next time. Anyways, so I'll finish my little rant here and then end the video. But I made this so that none of these weapons required the secondary class. They still all require the secondary attribute. Understand that. And so you still have to traverse 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that, minimum skill points in the direction of the bottom left or the bottom right of the skill tree. And if you do not take class 1, there are only 10 points available. One is at the top left of, or the top of the left side of the magic orb thing on the skill tree, where you can invest 5 points into magic attribute. And then if you go the full route of the magic user, you can invest 5 points like in front of magic user 1. And magic user 1 only gives 1 magic anyway, so it's really not that different. So you're investing 1 point, 1 level sooner, and you're getting the damage the same way as you would there. The other issue is that there's a situation I started talking about where you might get a weapon and not be able to use it, and you weren't looking at it, and you're confused maybe at the first. Like I said, Dark Souls makes this a little bit more explicit because it's stat requirements. It's you need, 15 strength or 12 dexterity or 11 something, or you need attunement slots or whatever. In this circumstance, you can go to the alchemist in Salt 1. You can transmute a weapon, and if you do it quick enough, you're just looking at the stats. You're just looking at, oh, hey, this does elemental damage, or hey, this looks really cool. You're visually looking at the weapon. And you could transmute your primary weapon, say it's a two-handed sword. And if you're not part of certain creeds, you can't buy another two-handed sword. And so you transmute the two-handed sword, and now you can't use it. You've transmuted it into the Black Widow, which requires Sword 2, Magic User 2. Not only is this a massive traversal through the tree to fix the ability to equip this, it is upwards of 12 or 15 points. You've ruined your character. Even with respec, this is going to be difficult to fix. And you can't recover a new weapon. You can't fix the weapon you have without losing the access to the weapon you just made. So you could transmute the Black Widow back into something else, but it has to be another boss weapon. It can't, there might be some two-handeds that aren't boss weapons, but it's going to be another like monster-oriented crafting. You can't transmute it backwards or undo and get your resources back. And you're going to have to go to New Game Plus if you do transmute it differently. And if you want to get the two-handed sword and you're in the wrong creed, you're going to have to sacrifice your creed, which makes the creed angry, gathers sin, things like that. All sorts of different issues, which effectively, in a lot of circumstances, this leaves the like 2% chance of this happening to a new player to be an absolutely horrible experience. So I removed those. And like I said, this has been controversial. Probably 50% of the people that I've really talked to about this have absolutely hated it because it removes the requirement. But the requirement still has effectively, in my opinion, a balance of the fact that you still need the attributes for those weapons to function. You're going to be missing upwards of 30 or even 50% of the damage of a weapon at bare minimum. It could be 60 if you're using something like the Shikamaru or the Black Widow. Upwards of 50 to 60% of your damage is locked up in the magic stat. You don't have access to magic stat, you're not doing damage with the weapon. So instead of locking you out of the weapon, I've locked you out of the damage of the weapon. Just a little bit different. Anyways, so big rant about Salt 1 and the enhanced mode. And I've just been kind of going through and adjusting some numbers, making it so that the randomizer works. Randomizer's coming out as soon as I get this patch out, which will be super fun. I know a bunch of people have tested it. I think there's been at bare minimum something like 10 users have gone through it at least once, and many of those users have gone through it multiple times. I know there's a couple bugs with it, but we're going to be moving forward as soon as possible with it when I can. So, anyways, absolutely wonderful run with the Shieldmaiden. Back to the actual game I'm playing. Shieldmaiden, absolutely wonderful run. You just stack block and defense, and she can't die. She can't do damage very good either. I can't speak English very good either. But Thorn Fists, I think, are the linchpin to this build. And you know, block was preventing me from doing damage faster. And if I really wanted to do more damage, now that I know that the base damage doesn't work on the shield bash, I'd probably do something like Mark of the Arrow or anything that does crit damage. Maybe Mark of the Grenier could be fun. You could do Hound for just no reason whatsoever. You do this, Affliction Fragile, make enemies do less damage and do take more damage. This is huge. So all these marks have been changed. So these are all way better than they used to be. They're much more interesting. Block strength, the multiplier to damage, that could have been maybe better. Almost guaranteed to be better outside of the abilities did tons of damage. The abilities did great damage. The needles. The needles did absolutely amazing damage with Mark of the Sword and Nine Ring. But I could probably sacrifice like Echoing Band for crit damage bonus. and then suddenly Thornfist does an absolutely massive amount more damage. 50% crit bonus on a... Yeah, you get the idea. Anyways, so yeah, stay tuned for some Salt and Sanctuary content, more Diablo 2 content, and maybe some Hades content in there, here and there, especially as they patch the game. And, maybe I'll come back and do a few more runs on different classes here to show off some of the new combinations. This has been an amazing patch for Halls of Torment. I think outside of the crit changes, I'm happy with literally every single change that they've done. Even the nerfs, they're fair. I'm sad some things got nerfed, like Mask of Madness was absolutely amazing, but it needed to happen. It just needed to happen. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Seriously though, like go click that button and like and subscribe this video if you made it this far. If you're making it this far, you better be doing that on every one of my videos, whether I ask you or not, because you clearly watched the video. Please. Yeah. So anyways, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed.